So what Robespierre is saying is that first we need to ensure the people are virtuous, and then we can have our perfect republic. And this is radically different from the assumptions of James Madison and the founders of the American Republic, who explicitly built their constitution on the assumption that men were not virtuous animals at all. And maybe that's why they didn't have to chop off as many heads. Robespierre then transitioned into talking about how to found this republic of virtue, because he recognized that the tempest of the times meant that virtue alone was not enough. He said, if the mainspring of popular government in peacetime is virtue, amid revolution, it is at once virtue and terror. Virtue, without which terror is fatal. Terror, without which virtue is impotent. Terror is nothing but prompt, severe, inflexible justice. It is, therefore, an emanation of virtue. So now we're getting to the good stuff, where virtue can only be achieved when the wicked are purged from the body politique, and the virtuous are scared into being anything but virtuous. But Robespierre knows what you're about to ask, and so he asks it for you. He asks, but hasn't it been said that terror is the spring of despotic government? Does yours then resemble despotism? Yes, Robespierre answered himself, but the government in a revolution is the despotism of liberty against tyranny. Is force only intended to protect crime? Is not the lightning of heaven made to blast vice exalted? He refers to the terror as the steel that glistens in the hands of the heroes of liberty. So where we're at now is the belief that the people are naturally virtuous, that they've been corrupted, and what is needed is a vanguard of warriors to clear out everything standing between the people and their natural virtue, which will then manifest itself in a glorious republic of equality and liberty where the nation will secure the comfort of the individual, and an individual prides himself on the prosperity and glory of his country. So Robespierre is describing like a symbiotic organism made up of pure republican virtue that will then, I guess at some point, disappear in a flash of white light up to a higher plane of existence. Or, collapse under the weight of a pile of heads and then get taken over by a little corporal from Corsica, whichever comes first. Now, Robespierre delivered this great speech, possibly the defining speech of his career, just before he took a month's sick leave from the public stage. But when he came back in March, it was clearly with the Republic of Virtue in mind that he aimed at immediately purging those dangerous factions, which in and of themselves were evil because they divided the people from the government and the people from each other. All of it, of course, was being funded by foreign enemies, which is why it was no problem to kill them all. They were not true citizens, they were strangers, alien enemies outside the protection of even human empathy. Upon delivering the indictment of the indulgence to the convention, Robespierre's young ally and collaborator Saint-Just promised that this would be the end of the political killings, that with this last of the factions liquidated, the process of virtuous regeneration could begin unimpeded. Now it's hard to tell if he was lying through his teeth or just magnificently self-deluded, but whichever it was, Robespierre and Saint-Just were not going to keep that promise at all.